Welcome to United America Tonight. I'm your host, Diego Canapica. Boys, yesterday, July 28th, was the Warrington Revitalization Committee's Republican candidate debate. It was very interesting. Now, if you don't know, if you're from out of county, there are two main Republican counties for District 2, the County Commissioner's Office. There's Mike Kohler, the incumbent county commissioner, and Glenn Dorsey, his opponent, who runs a home management company, an autocratic HOA, if you will. And so it's been a hot race between these two over the last half year now. It's interesting to see Michael Kohler notably has the backing of a party. He has the backing of local Pensacola business families like David Bear. He has $77,000 in the bank, so he's no small fry. Glenn Dorsey has about $20,000 in the bank, I think nearing $30,000 at this point. I think the notable backings he has is yours truly from my PAC United America Political Action Committee. I haven't given him any money, and I'm being as non-biased as I possibly can for this current video. And so for the WRC, they hosted a debate yesterday, and it was very interesting to see. Now, the WRC, they talk about revitalization in District 2, Warrington being pretty much all of District 2. And so it was hosted by four main people. And these four main people are probably the most important characters of this debate, outside of the candidates. There was the WRC chair, William Van Horn, who is also Mike Kohler's pick for District 2 Planning Board in Escambia County. There was Jane Birdwell, who's the WRC secretary, and there was Keith Bowe, who was an avid WRC member. There was also the moderator, Keith Wilkins. Now, there's two Keiths. Keith Wilkins is the moderator. Keith Bowe is the avid WRC member and Michael Kohler supporter. All four of these guys are very important. And they're important for a very interesting reason. Now, the Our County newsletter ran by my grandma. Nepo alert, ran by my grandma. Small newsletter, but sizable. They had people, my grandma's, of course, injured. And of course, she had people go on her stead. Now, I'm not going to name these people. I'm not part of the Our County newsletter, but I know genuinely he was there on behalf of my grandma. It was not me like many people think. And what the Our County people discovered was that they figured out who the questions were written by. Now, as I mentioned earlier, William Van Horn is the WRC chair, and he's also Mike Kohler's pick for District 2 Planning Board. Now, why is this important? This is important because he was the one who wrote the questions. How do we know this? Because all this and more was leaked to Our County by Keith Wilkins. Keith Wilkins said that Van Horn wrote the questions. And not only that he was instructed by the WRC not to give it to Glenn Dorsey until around 11 p.m. on the night of the 27th, the day prior. Isn't that strange? And what weirds me out is how he worded it. You would think that if this was mutual for both Dorsey and Kohler, that he would have said that he gave the questions to the candidates on the night of the 27th. But he specifically said Dorsey. And now, I'll get into the reactions of this later. But what this implicates for this debate is astonishing. It was vagrant political manipulation of the masses by hosting a faux neutral debate. And if you don't think that about it, then I don't know where you've been for politics for the last 250 years. But I digress. It was an interesting debate regardless. I certainly enjoyed it. Now, why did I enjoy it? Well, this debate was a two-part here. The first part were questions from the WRC itself. These questions were, even if you didn't know that they were written by the WRC, you could tell that they were pro-Kohler. They had questions specifically tailored to every bullet point of Kohler's campaign. They made it so that every question could be answered by Kohler saying, "Oh, well, I did that during my term." There was like 4, 5 questions tops. And of course, the intro and closing. Now, we'll get to what the candidates said. For the intro, I think it was a solid intro by both candidates, except for Kohler. Now, they start off with Glenn Dorsey. Glenn Dorsey said he was local to District 2, raised his kids there, blah, 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 usual stuff. Right? And this is important later, but it's a solid opening where he grew up, where his kids grown up, what he does, where in the community he lives, stuff like that. Kohler went after him, and instead of really doing that, Kohler's intro can be thought of more as, I'm Mike Kohler. Glenn Dorsey, he don't live here. Glenn Dorsey, he doesn't do what I do. I am the guy. And that's pretty much Kohler's intro. He pretty much thrashed Glenn Dorsey out the gate, which, for me, growing up in a politically turbulent time, I mean, this was like standard operating procedure. Props to Glenn Dorsey for not doing that. But Mike Kohler, out of the gate, throwing punch after punch at Glenn Dorsey, doing every single one of his campaign texts, questioning where Glenn Dorsey lives, by the way. Unsurprisingly, lives in District 2. But I guess apparently he has a house in Santa Rosa, which is fine, right? People can have houses other places. My dad owned a house in South Carolina. He was a sailor. He jumped around. It happens. Obviously, someone in housing management would have a second house. I don't blame the guy. But he went off attacking Kohler on his house. The fact he doesn't show up ever, apparently. Even though that's not true. And the fact that he's a general liar, apparently. About what? I don't know. And so, off they go on the rest of the debate. Standard questions, what's your opinion on CRA? Kohler questions. What would you do about insert thing that Kohler solved during his term that was already fixed, kinda? Well, I fixed the house, the freaking bills on the housing and shit like that. Okay, dude. And these were very Kohler-centric questions. Everything you've seen Kohler campaign on, or say, this is what I did in 4 years. That's basically what questions he asks. Did you do this did you do this? And if not, what are you planning to do about it? They also talked about a few other things, and I think Glenn Dorsey made a very consistent point. At one point, they talked about the incoming property tax slash on the state level. And now Kohler did this, we're all gonna die. He said that he's gonna cut everything. He's gonna cut the library, gone. Parks, gone. I rebuilt the parks, but they're gone. I think Glenn Dorsey gave an honest answer, right? There's a lot of things we waste, there was a literal whole, controversy about the county clerk not giving community funds and county funds to nonprofits. It's illegal. Of course, she's getting sued by the House representative for the Florida House of District 1, Andrade. It's a very epic controversy. Basically, Dorsey said, I don't think that Dorsey said that he doesn't think it's that scary of a proposal, and that there's county waste to be cut, like the gifts to the nonprofits, and so on and so forth. What's interesting about this debate, after every question, the front row was sneering. Now, why was the front row sneering? At the debate, there was a plethora of people in colored shirts, and general supporters of Kohler, which is to be expected. It's a candidate debate. There was a lot of Glenn Dorsey supporters there, too. What's interesting is they put a lot of the Kohler supporters right in the front row, in front of Glenn Dorsey, in fact. Keith Bowe, as I talked about earlier, right on the front row. Melissa Pino, who I'll get to later, front row. And of course, others there too. And they put him right in front of Glenn Dorsey. And after every answer that Glenn Dorsey gave, there would be eye rolls. Oh my God. Oh, brother, this guy stinks. Stuff like that. They roll their eyes, sneer, laugh. They're just being generally demoralizing to Glenn Dorsey, which I find very, very interesting. People say disgusting, and I would generally agree. I'm more of a political radical, so this is nothing new to me. And so they had these guys up there snarling at Glenn Dorsey, making faces. You had Mike Kohler making faces back and kind of crowd working, except it's the crowd he put there, that the WRC put there. And so it was generally a very toxic environment. All throughout the House questions, the WRC questions, they would just sneer and snarl and laugh. But it was very interesting when we got to the community questions. In my opinion, I think the community questions are where that debate shined. Now, there were quite a few community questions, about, I think, a little bit more than the WRC questions. Start off with Melissa Pino, and Melissa Pino has a reputation in our county. She's, how do I put this gently? She's avant-garde. She's kind of out there. She came in from Looney Town, if you will. She doesn't have the best reputation, and so she got there and made what was at first a very nice question. There's a lot of character attacks in politics, no different in this race. How will you, both candidates, will you not politically attack each other? Will you not character assassinate, is the term she used. Will you not character assassinate each other? Of course, this was originally directed at both candidates. But it was interesting. It was very interesting what she said right after her main question. She said, specifically, I'm talking about Glenn Dorsey. Glenn Dorsey, you've made a bunch of attacks, and it hurts my feelings, and attacks Mike Kohler. It was basically an attack on Glenn Dorsey, disguised as context for a question. Of course, she's utterly insane, so she, of course, does it in a very snarky and demeaning way, which it's politics, so who cares? And so, but I find it ironic. I find it highly ironic that Mel Pino, the person who was sitting up there rolling her eyes, she was the main one sneering at Glenn Dorsey on behalf of Mike Kohler. And then she asks, will you two stop politically assassinating each other, character assassinating each other? Let's start off with Mike Kohler. Mike Kohler said, I didn't character assassinate anyone. I didn't character assassinate not a single person. The whole debate, he started off with this intro. Glenn Dorsey, you don't live here. You don't know what you're talking about. I know everything. For the questions, every question, well, I worked as a county commissioner. I know what's going on. About getting more money for Escambia County. I worked in D.C. He was a nurse. I worked in D.C. I know everyone, and I know everything there is to know about D.C. Brody worked as a nurse for his naval life. He said as an O4. He went to D.C. as an O4. And that he now knows how to make all the money because he was in D.C. He wasn't a public affairs officer. He didn't do that. He was a nurse. He worked at the hospital. I know how to make money. I worked for an admiral. Okay, but you know what? I visited the White House. I know Trump. So true, dude. So true. And so, yeah, it was like that. Glenn Dorsey doesn't know what he's doing. He hasn't been here. He lives in Santa Rosa County. He did blah, 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 blah. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is a whole debate. You think that a person who was given the questions probably 2 days in advance and has been the incumbent commissioner for 4 years would have better answers than, well, I served in the Navy, and I worked in D.C., and I was a commissioner. Brody, this is Pensacola. Everyone worked for the Navy. You don't have to keep saying that. My dad worked for the Navy. My grandma worked for the Navy. Half the people there worked for the Navy. Oh boy, you're a sailor? Bravo. Truly a unique character in Pensacola. I should stop jesting. I should really stop jesting, but I mean, it's really like that. Time after time, he's saying that. And so for them to say, oh, me? Character assassinating Glenn Dorsey? I don't do that. I'm a freaking wholesome chungus who will never hurt anyone. I just stand for the truth. I've been spitting nothing but facts. I'm Glenn Dorsey. You're a piece. You're a POS. End it all. You're a POS. You don't live here. You live in Santa Rosa. Wow. But I don't character assassinate. Now, when Glenn Dorsey responded, he said, "Well, I don't think I've character assassinated anyone." And as soon as he said that, you had Keith Bow standing up. Keith Bow, man in suspension. I'll preface this saying Keith Bow is a nice guy. He's nice to me. He's a political shill. So he stood up in his chair. He went, "You got us answer for the future." He's asking about the future. The future guy. Glenn Dorsey, what will you do in the future? And Glenn Dorsey's trying to say, he's not going to character assassinate Kohler. Kohler character assassinates everyone and everything. He character assassinated Pam Childers. He character assassinated Glenn Dorsey. He'll character assassinate literally whoever's at the podium during a Board of County Commissioners meeting. And so, Glenn Dorsey's not going to say he's not going to character assassinate Kohler in the future. Because Kohler just character assassinated Glenn Dorsey in responding to the question about character assassinations. So he's not going to say that, but you had Keith Bow saying, "Oh, for the future, man, for the future." And don't send hate to Keith Bow. He's a lovely individual. Photos are great. I don't think he's good in politics, but I digress. But he was up in arms about it. Mel Pino was rolling her eyes. And so, I mean, this was a toxic question. I'm being a little toxic how I'm going about it, but this was a toxic question. And so, after Mel Pino, you had a couple others. You had Chris Kerb, part of the flood defenders. Pensacola and Escambia County gets a lot of flooding. He pretty much railed Mike Kohler about flooding. Mike Kohler tried to respond saying, "Well, we had the best. We upgraded the flooding systems. Everywhere in Escambia County still floods. If he's done anything for the flooding system or for floodwater drainage, I don't think he's done a very good job. Personally, it's my personal opinion." And what was really interesting was when Mike Kohler's wife had a question for Glenn Dorsey. Mike Kohler's wife, oh boy, what's her name? Sandra? Mike Kohler's wife came up to the podium and said, "Glenn Dorsey, I have your finance records right here on this little piece of paper. You have worked with Palafox Productions. It's on your campaign finance report. Palafox Productions put in an ad calling my husband, Michael Kohler, an associate of Jeffrey Epstein's. That's not true." And then now you have Glenn Dorsey he's like utterly confused. He's like, what? Utterly confused. Right? And she's attacking Glenn Dorsey, saying, "You're an evil man for comparing my husband to the monster who's Jeffrey Epstein. And I have all on video, because you worked at Palafox Productions." And Glenn Dorsey saying, "Listen, lady, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about." And then she starts going on about the manager that did this, or the dude in the video who talked about it. Glenn Dorsey tried spouting off, who he worked with in Palafox Productions. And what the camera does not show, what the audio on the live stream and the YouTube video doesn't really pick up that well, is everyone in the back shouting to Sandra Kohler, "Play it! Play the video!" I was one of them. Play the video. I would have loved to see the Kohler Epstein video. I think everyone would like to see the Kohler Epstein video, because I want to see what was alleged. And so everyone was saying, play the video, we want to see it. And what was interesting is that Keith Bowe, Jane Birdwell, and Van Horn was like, no, let's not play the video. Let's maybe not play the video. I don't think we have time. And would you look at the time? I don't think we can play the video. It's interesting. And so Mike Kohler said, oh, I've never touched anyone. I wouldn't have been a nurse if I did. And then Glenn Dorsey was responding. He kind of got cut off by the crowd. And then after they settled the crowd down, they kind of moved on. They didn't really give Dorsey the chance to defend himself. I could kind of hear what he was saying, but over the crowd, over Kohler, over his wife, over the WRC, they cut off his reply. Right? He said he didn't have any knowledge of it. I didn't have any knowledge of it. I would love to see the video. Sandra Kohler, if you're watching, send me the video. I want to see the Kohler-Epstein files. That's all I have to say. Now, I'm not going to say that Kohler... this is all alleged. More likely than not, he didn't. I mean, he's only connected with the Republican establishment, the Byron Donalds campaign, which connected to the Trump campaign, connected to the Florida GOP. Listen, I'm a Republican, but I digress. I don't think the dude did it. And it's all alleged material. And so don't go out there. I would not go out there saying that Kohler worked with Epstein. I don't think anyone would. And what I think, based on how the WRC act, I think this was staged. Low-key, I think this was highly staged. Sandra goes up there with the video in hand. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it. Don't make me play it, because I will play it, Glenn Dorsey. I will play this video and expose you in front of the whole crowd. The whole crowd wanted to see it. The whole crowd wanted to see it, and the WRC said, no, we're not gonna play that. Why not? Why not? This is alleging that a candidate was working with Epstein. I wanted to see it. The guys behind me wanted to see it. Everyone from the front, oh, not for the front row, but from the second row back wanted to see it. So, I don't know if Sandra will ever show the video. I want to see the video. They're not going to show the video. They're not going to show the video because even if Palafox Productions made wild accusations about Mike Kohler, does that mean Glenn Dorsey's guilty by association? By that logic, Mike Kohler is an Epstein dude because he's associated with Byron Donalds, a stakeholder in the Byron Donalds campaign, by the way. From that leaked video. He was in that leaked video of being a stakeholder in the Byron Donalds campaign, but I digress. Mike Kohler's guilty from association too, because he works with Byron Donalds, he works with Trump, who was in the Epstein files. Does that mean Mike Kohler is Epstein aficionado? No, it doesn't mean that. Just like it means that Glenn Dorsey isn't guilty by association just because the Palafox Productions theoretically put out a video making wild accusations. Let's not do guilty by association, because Mike Kohler and Van Horn are both guilty by association for being conniving, hugely backed figures. So, Sandra, if you're watching, bad move. If you want to help your husband out, maybe don't show up to a political campaign. Just food for thought. Food for thought. It was probably the highlight for the debate for me. I was there laughing my ass off. Because even though everyone in Escambia County is disgusted on Kohler's wife for making lies, on Glenn Dorsey for working with the company, they're all mad. Oh, this is disgusting. And I'd agree. If this wasn't like politics in modern day America and old America, this has been going on for 200 years. It's going to happen in Escambia County someday. The debate ended off with a question about impact fees. Of course, Mike Kohler said, oh, we levy impact fees, the housing prices are going to go through the roof. Kohler, the housing prices are literally already averaging $300,000 in Escambia County. An extra $2,000 ain't going to do nothing. And it also takes the burden off of, the people who buy the house and they don't have connection to the sewers, to the water systems, there's electricity outages in a few spots in Escambia County. I don't have fiber optic. Where's my fiber optic, Kohler? Where's my stormwater drainage, Kohler? We did so many. Where? Where's your stormwater drainage? I don't see it. And so he talked doom and gloom about impact fees. Impact fees is popular among a majority of Escambia County citizens. Internal polling from the UAPAC, I'd say I'd range at about maybe 60% want some form of fees on developers for environmental causes like drainage, for stormwater, stuff like that. And that was the end of the debate. Kohler, I'd say he did fine, obviously, for the WRC questions. He kind of sank during the community questions, right? About the character assassinations, he lied. Everyone in the back of the room was laughing. The hyenas in the front weren't laughing. They were stoic, right? They weren't laughing, but everyone in the back was kind of giggling because he literally was character assassinating Dorsey, both before and after the question. And even during the question. He sank when his wife went up there, and you should have seen his reaction for his wife. He jumps up and goes, I didn't know she was going to be here. Guys, I didn't know. Brody, you carpooled with your wife. What do you mean you didn't know she was going to do that? Your wife never shows up. Well, first day she shows up, you don't, think, I wonder why my wife is showing up. She never wanted to in the past. I didn't know she was going to do that. Okay, dude. Okay, bro. I'll take you at face value. You didn't know. He sank during the impact fees questions, of course, and that wrapped up the debate. Overall, first half, obvious Kohler win. It was rigged from the start. Second half, Kohler sank. I'd give the edge to Dorsey. I think Dorsey for the first half kind of was demoralized, obviously. When you have people laughing on you for saying the most rudimentary stuff possible, you're gonna be nervous. You're gonna stutter. I have a stutter even when I'm not nervous. I don't blame the guy. I don't. So, it's really nice. It was a good debate overall. It's half and half. I don't think the first part was good, obviously, but overall, I think near the end is where the debate shined the most. Went right in the WRC's faces. And now, I get to the second part of this video. The aftermath. Because, oh boy, did this debate mark a significant turn in Escambia County. Now, what was going on in the debate? Well, sorry, after the debate. Now, after the debate, there was a bunch of posts on the county Facebook group, not managed by the county, but the Escambia County Citizens Watch, which is where everyone who talks Escambia County politics does their thing. And so, there was a bunch of posts that came out. There were comments under the poster for the debate. There was comments under the recording for the debate. There were comments under a bunch of posts related to the debate. Now, what do these comments say? Well, the first and most notable post was from our county, again, ran by my grandmother. And she said a lot of things I've reiterated here. That, the weirdness of the WRC, who was there, things I've brushed up upon. Of course, she ended it off with a call to vote for Dorsey, which I run a PAC, so no comment. Look at my website to know who I support. UAPAC.com, by the way. Go donate. But no, obviously I support Dorsey too, just for clarification. And underneath that comment was a plethora. I think last time I checked, at 11 p.m. on the 29th, you had the Dorsey people were there. Crispo, notably being a defender. You had people like Alex Arduni or whatever. He commented, trying to play ball for Kohler. You got people who are skeptical of Kohler, historic District 2 residents, not wanting Kohler anymore. See, this is where politics time, this is where my expertise come in. The incumbent has the advantage in every election. This is no secret to anyone remotely familiar with politics. But how it is in Escambia County is that people are on, and it's not a literal killing spree, but they want every incumbent commissioner out of office. Kohler, Hofberger, and the rest of the lot. I think most of them want all of them gone. Kohler and Hofberger being the foremost people. And so you had a war, if you will. Now I'm going to brush up on some of the comments. Now, Keith Bow commented under my grandma's post. He questioned who was the Our County official who got the information about the moderator giving the questions to Dorsey late, about about Van Horn writing the questions. He was adamant. The WRC didn't do any of that. But they never did. They were given the things at the same time. They did everything by the books, and Dorsey just sucked. I want to know who told you that. I want to know. Again, Keith Bow is like just a member of the WRC. He's not a top guy. He just sits there and records and laughs with Melpino. He didn't really do much. I don't think he's a top wig like Van Horn. Of course, he defended Van Horn, saying Van Horn did nothing wrong. And of course, playing the whole Kohler's a good candidate, you and I are friends. Listen, my grandma and Keith Bow are friends. And he said nice things about me, so I don't want to rip him to him, but when you say that you're doing this neutrally and you're picking the candidate, you have all the right to pick Kohler. Listen, if you're voting Kohler, all the power to you. Don't let me change your opinion. If you want to hear my opinion and kind of scoff at me, go ahead. Nothing but the best wishes for Keith Bow, but just the way he's coming up defending the WRC when he's not a top member. How would he know? Where would Keith Bow get his information? Well, of course, he's the guy for the WRC. And obviously he wants to figure out, on behalf of Van Horn, who's the Our County official who got the information. Now, I know who the official is. Again, I'm not going to say. I'm not a rat. I'm not one of those guys. I love my grandma. I know who it is. I ain't saying. But, credible source. I can attest it's a credible source. That's all the information you're getting. Loose lips sink ships. Isn't that right, Kohler? Loose lips sink ships. But no, I know who it is. It's nothing nobody anyone would expect, and I'll never tell. And so, we'll go on and talk about someone other than Keith Bow, because Keith Bow was just defending. And just drilling into my grandma, drilling into people saying, oh, well, I don't think Mike Kohler's the right guy. I think he's been in there for 4 years too long, blah, blah, blah. And Keith Bow is like, why would you say that? Why would you say that about my beloved Mike Kohler? Oh. And again, I don't want to rip into Keith Bow too much. He's been nice to me. Don't hate on him. And listen, Keith Bow, he said one thing to me. He said, I think Glenn Dorsey was talking about the property taxes, and he talked about how Escambia County tends to say that they're keeping property tax the same, but actually talking about the millage rate, which is used to calculate your total property tax, and how they would actually raise the assessed value for the home, which is another component of the property tax calculation. And I remember Keith Bow coming up to me and saying, well, Glenn Dorsey, he's an idiot. He said property tax and millage rate's the same thing. What a loony. Brody, he was talking about the calculations to do the total property tax, which what was it? The assessed value divided by something times the millage rate. I'm 22. I don't own a home. Leave your comments below in the correct calculation. I would assume as someone who lives in District 2 and probably owns a house in District 2 would know the property tax calculation. I don't want to hit again. I keep saying I don't want to hate on the guy, and then I throw stuff like that. He said that to me. I didn't have the heart to tell him that he was wrong. This is in front of everyone, and I think I would be laughed at like a hyena, and I'm not built for that yet. I'm not a politician yet, so I didn't have the heart to tell him that that wasn't right. So I just said, okay, bro. Okay, I take your word. No. So don't wait on Keith Bow. He's there, an ardent defender of Mike Kohler. I don't think my opinion is going to change that. As for everyone else, you had Alex Arduni again. He tried to say that, oh, this post was written like the mother of Glenn Dorsey's campaign manager. He's referring to me. Everyone knows that I'm the only PAC in Pensacola and that I endorse him. And I have a few problems with it. Alex Arduini, if you're watching this, here's why you're wrong. One, I run a PAC. I know you don't know how a PAC runs, but I am legally not allowed to be his campaign manager. And I'm not. Me and him have met like 4 times. I think this debate being the 4th time we met. And so, like, I can't be the campaign manager. And second of all, I'm not that old. I'm 22. I'm her grandson. Jeez. Son of Mary Konopka. No, I'm the grandson. Get it right, dude. He also said who's the person, and he's like, oh, she's not gonna tell. He dummy. An insider is an insider for a reason, because no one knows who they are. And, you know, you're not supposed to be, like, you're not going to say, hey, I'm an Our County insider. How about you would like to leak all the information from the WRC to Our County? Hey, they're not going to say they're an insider. The person who hired the insider is not going to say they're an insider. And the person who knows who the insider is not going to say who the insider is. Brody, that's the purpose of an insider. But crickets, I guess, from Our County. But along with that, you had general positive comments to Glenn Dorsey on the behalf of the Our County Post. You have people coming in, saying their piece. It's a huge divide. But I would like to highlight how many paid Kohler bots there were. I mean, I'll say that Keith Bowe is not, I don't know if he's paid by the WRC. It's volunteer-based from what I gather. But who knows? Van Horn being a Kohler guy. Jane Birdwell being associated with Van Horn and Kohler. And so I would like to highlight and warn you, if you see people talking about it, look to who they associate with. Right? Warrington Revitalization Committee has its own Facebook page. It's where they're most active. They don't get a lot of comments, but they do post there, and I would recommend anyone who sees someone posting on the WRC's page not to really trust them on their opinion on Mike Kohler. Even if they're not, like, paid by Mike Kohler. Even if they're not paid by Mike Kohler. They still run with Van Horn, who is paid by Mike Kohler. He is. It's not a secret. And so all the information people who are part of the WRC are fed is filtered by the Kohler campaign, who is also associated with David Bear, one of the largest native Pensacola families, associated with Van Horn, right? Van Horn, not only does he work for Kohler, does he run the WRC, but he donates to Kohler. Between the Bear family and Van Horn, they all have given about $7,000 to Michael Kohler. And Mike Kohler gets $77,000. Last number is $77,000 for his campaign. So, I mean, it's like an 11th maybe of the total donations, but it's still a sizable amount. And so I am wary of what's going on in the ECW forums. I would highly recommend to watch the actual debate. I'm here to simply tell you what happened in the crowd. Oh, the crowd. Stroberger was there. He's another county commissioner. He's more for Kohler, but I disagree with him on that. There was a bunch of natives there. There was guys in the crowd yelling at Kohler. I remember there's one dude who Kohler said something about stormwater drainage, and this dude just went ballistic. I don't know. I didn't really hear him that well in the video. Obviously, they told him to shut up or get out. We had a cop there, and he was ready to do it. So the crowd went wild. I have my suspicions. I do. It is interesting to see how people are so afraid of PACs. I get this a lot. They're so afraid of PACs, but then they're going to sit there and not understand that Kohler is paid off by the Bear family. That he's allied with the local GOP, which is not a problem. I'm a registered Republican. I'm conservative. I'm America First, and so naturally I'm a registered Republican. I understand, right? He needs his party backing to survive. That's where he gets it. He's a stakeholder in the Byron Donalds campaign. For my out-of-state folks, you've seen the leak video coming out from Byron Donalds. Mike Kohler's to do next to him, and that video where he says, "Oh, the state, who wants to join the Byron Donalds campaign and become a stakeholder?" Kohler's right next to Byron Donalds. This happened right here in Pensacola. And so, obviously, Kohler's a stakeholder in the Byron Donalds campaign. He seeks to gain not only financial gains, but also political gains if Byron Donald wins. And here's, I think, the crux of this video, is that it is obvious to me that Kohler, after this term, is going for he's going for a higher party position. It's, from what I hear from the commissioners, Kohler's last election he's going to participate in for county commissioner. It's his last 4 years if he wins. And I personally think he's either going afterwards, he's going to go run for the Florida House, or he's going to run, or he's trying to be an executive chair for the Republican Party of Escambia County, which is not hard. I think John Frank is his name. Brody doesn't know what a PAC is. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's the executive chair he's the current executive chair of the Republican Party. So we'll see how it goes for Kohler. My bet, again, I endorse Glenn Dorsey. So if you're a Kohler head, take everything I say with a grain of salt. Or, I mean, you do your own research at the end of the day. Guys, political manipulation is everywhere. It's everywhere. Don't just believe every comment you see. Don't believe me off face value. Don't believe my grandma off of face value. Get your information, make your information varied. Get it from multiple places. And go to these events. These were electric events. And I think we truly did see Kohler's character on display. And to me, I mean, character means very little for Gen Z in politics. It says a lot. Because Kohler just did stuff by the books in modern politics. He got his guys up front. He controlled the flow of information with the WRC. And so he'll come out with a sizable base in District 2, regardless. He has the funds for it. He has the control of the WRC. He has the information control in District 2. And so be wary of these comments defending Kohler. I would. They're almost all linked to the WRC. Right? Like, you can theorize about who wrote the questions. You may believe the Our County, you may believe the Our County correspondent. You may not. You may not believe Our County. You may not believe me. But at the end of the day, it's an undisputable fact that the chair for the WRC is working for Kohler. He works for the planning board for District 2. He's a part of the campaign. This much is obvious. To say that that event was not in some way manipulated by the WRC is absolutely asinine. To me. To me, it's asinine. I would say that it was a Kohler event. And I think Glenn Dorsey walked out of there knowing that he tried his best at this debate, even though he's walking to a lion's den. But that's all. That's all I have to say. Interesting debate. I was laughing. This marks the end of the video. If you liked that video, like, comment, subscribe. Donate to UAPAC. Donate at uapac.org/donate. America first, as always. Comment of the day comes from my Facebook on UAPAC. Comes from, I forgot who. I had his name. I had it on a piece of paper. I lost it. He said, get a haircut. No. Guys, thank you so much. God bless. America first. Good night.